Welcome you guys to another episode of Raising Starseed. I'm Abby Lynn and Heidi Pop as always. Hello. And we are joined with Patricia of the Keystone channel. If you guys haven't checked out her amazing YouTube platform, she really does bring on some wonderful guests with a lot of insight with what's going on in the world. She also has the website Awakening to Healing. And you are joining us from Amsterdam today.
Yes,
Yeah.
Holland, Amsterdam, and which is a different time zone, but I'm so used to it. I've got most of my viewers from America, so I'm always streaming in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. Well, for you guys, it's about 7 p.m. 7 p.m. So, but yeah, I'm used to that.
Yes, thank you so much. We were just talking before we recorded. So I just finished yesterday getting my certification in Beyond Quantum Healing. And so I'm in the forum and I see your beautiful face and vibrant red hair in there. So, I think I always love it when you have these synchronicities with other star seeds that are out there learning and expanding. And, that is kind of part of our mission here is to bring in as much knowledge as we can.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? So ever since I started my channel, then slowly you start to find your tribe. And then you know that everybody around you actually, we're all on the same path all over the world. And you get to connect. And then you get to know people, but they know people that you know. And it doesn't matter where over the world, but it's, we're all connected. And I started my channel in 2020. And I love that. I got to meet so many people, and then so many people that I know, right? So you would say it's a small world, right?
All the circles keep combining. Yeah, 6 degrees.
Right?
Yeah, it's nice.
Sometimes I wonder, we've all been strategically placed around the globe, but sometimes I wonder if we did that on purpose just to make it a fun game for us, like an extra.
Well, you know what? That's such a good thing you say that, because I have like a group of all star seeds and all that from all over the world, and it's like almost like we need to be spread all over the world in order to, shine that light, awakening people. And, it is strategical, I think.
Yeah. I would love to get your take. What do you think being a star seed, what does that mean to you?
Oh, well, when I knew that I was a star, well, actually, maybe I knew all along when I was small. I always was like, I feel I don't belong here. What am I doing here? But that was at 7 years old, because the first 7 years I didn't remember my life and I didn't know what happened. Now I do, actually, thanks to the BQH sessions. But before I didn't. And so it was like I was just plopped on the world like that, right? And I didn't understand because, amnesia. And so I always knew that I wasn't from here. So, but where I was from, I didn't think about that, because I wasn't thinking about aliens, other planets and stuff like that. That only came actually in the past years, that I encountered people that had the same. And now what does that mean? It means that, well, I'm very relieved, because at least the universe is not made out of our little planet, which would have been really sad and depressing if I thought about it. But obviously, I already knew that. But if you start to learn more about it, then what does that mean? It means that everything is so much bigger than ourselves, even bigger than our little planet, and we as a species. But together as our species, we do make we make a difference. We make an impact as well on the whole universe, which is pretty interesting if you think about it. Because once you understand that everything is so much bigger and so much more important, our one life that we have right now is so much more important than we could have ever imagined. Right?
Yes, I was actually just thinking yesterday, I finally got back to running, and that's when I do my meditation, but um I can't imagine living and thinking that this one lifetime is it.
Yeah, that's something. When I was young already, I already knew instantly that that wasn't it. Even if somebody suggested it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It's kind of stupid, right? So you are born and then you die. So what's the point of it, right? There is no point to that at all. It doesn't make sense. Knowing that you also have a soul, that would mean that every soul just dies down. The same with your body. It just, I mean, literally, that's, I think, people that don't believe in, that when you die there is, well, this is what eternal life is, right? But I don't know, Christians, they think something else with eternal life, I guess. I'm not religious, so I don't know exactly what they think eternal life is when going to Christ and all that stuff. But for myself, I always knew, I always believed in reincarnation. Well, granted, I do come from Indonesian blood as well. My dad is Indonesian, and so they're, although they are Catholic, interesting, but they were always open to that and much more in tune with what's on the other side, because also my grandfather was very paranormal, so he could even move stuff, right? And for him that was really normal. But my grandmother, who is completely Indonesian, for her that was like, ooh, black magic. But and so my grandfather would always like play with it, right? Which would piss off my grandmother. But my grandfather was always so normal about this stuff. and and so I grew up with that, as well as on my mother's side. My mother was very open to that too, but the rest of the family from my mother's side not so much. But you just didn't talk about it. But for me it was already normal. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry, Heidi. Like, I mean, you bring up a real good point, and we haven't really discussed that this much in the podcast with some of our family members that are still really, really set in this religious dogma. And then you have, grandkids, these children coming in, nieces and nephews, or moms and dads that, like your grandfather, can move stuff. These kids are remembering their past lives. I was scrolling through Facebook, and Bored Panda popped up in my newsfeed.
Oh, I love Board Panda.
Yeah, and so this one, it was like a mom saying, like, my child just remembered, and it was like a past life memory. And there are well over 1,000 comments. So I popped in the comments. Oh my Lord, every single comment was from somebody of, oh, my niece remembered her life when she was in the war. My grandson remembered his life when he was in Vietnam. Or like, every single person had this profound experience from their children or themselves. Even like, I remember when I was younger, and I have always felt attached. So this is so widely accepted everywhere, and I just find it so bizarre that there's still people that think that it's not real.
Yeah, actually, there was one of the first things that I started researching was about these children that remember their previous life. There's documentaries about it, and about this boy that he's like the UK, and so they went there, recognized everything, and so I was like, wow, that's so fascinating, and I totally resonate with that. Although, and I was a bit jealous because these children just remember everything, right? Yeah. But then I slowly, because there's so much more. So then when I in the past years, I remembered that as a child, I would be in bed and I would just say words, and I would constantly do it. My brothers would get crazy about it. They were, oh, can you please shut up? Yeah. Because I just talked, but it was not a language. It was just, it went on and on. And now I know that to be light language. And I have no clue what I did, what I said. I just loved doing it because it felt so good. And it just went on and on. But now, well, I guess I have to bring that back, but in some way. But at the time, I had obviously no clue. The only reason I did it was because it felt good. And so if when it comes to these past lives, the same with kids that, they all have these experiences, but they just forget about it later on. And but I had then this man who researched all these children with these previous lives. And I mean, there were thousands and thousands of them. So he made this book about it, which I then read, which it was so fascinating. And, it was there all along. It was just not so mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Were you a social child, or did you prefer playing, quietly, or solitude, or preferred being with elders, or how was your
elders? I was with, actually, I had a friend, but I was more with her grandmother when her grandmother happened to live in my street, and I was there every day with her. I connected much more with elderly because they understood more. And I was bullied a lot. I did not understand my peers at all. I understand nothing of their interest, the way they think, the way they bullied, the way they, they were excited about going to a circus where animals were abused. I could not understand why somebody would take pleasure in that. And I already knew these animals were not happy. They were not there, by their own choice. Animals is something that really, really I'm close to and connected with. And so much more, really. My head was always somewhere that was not of interest for my peers. They were so much more simple. And so at 25, I got panic attacks. I got severe agoraphobia. And that's when I started isolating from the world, which I did for 27 years. And I got only out of that in 2020 when I started my channel as a personal challenge. So for 27 years, I haven't lived in the world at all. Yeah. And so I haven't been around people. Yeah, I had a boyfriend here and there, but I mean, I could be for months on end, like 8 months without seeing a human being. And I was comfortable in that, and I chose that. And later on, last year, I discovered I'm autistic. And when I learned about that, that's when everything fell into place, and I knew that the anxiety I had, the panic attacks I got, was because as soon as I went into the world, I would see these masks people put on, and they're like, "Oh, how are you?" And I knew instantly they're not interested in me. Why are they saying it? It didn't make sense. They said, "How are you?" if they're not interested. It was just, everything is just for politeness and just for form, but not with meaning. And I've noticed that everything that people, I knew instantly what people said was not in their head. And the other problem for me was that I used to say everything, and I still do, what's in my head, which obviously didn't go well because, and I promised myself as a child, like, we should be having telepathy because that way nobody can ever lie. Everybody knows what everybody means, really, when they say it. So it's futile to say it. And so I promised myself that I will always say what's in my mind. And no matter, and I actually had to learn to balance also out being rude and being, because I would just say it. If somebody had new clothes and my thought was, "Oh my God, that's horrible," I would literally say that. And so it got out. That didn't make me any friends, obviously. And so my mom would say, "You need to learn to lie a bit." And only that, saying her that, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna lie. However, I also needed to, because people do not read your intention. And so I needed to learn that with my words, I needed to put in my attention there. So now I would say, you know, I see you have new clothes on, but I don't like them. And, but I wouldn't say sorry for it. I would just say it more nicely. And with nicely, I mean, I wouldn't say, oh my God, that's horrible. You're right. I would leave that part out, but I would still say what I thought, which got me still in trouble. And so at the end of the day, I couldn't cope anymore. So I started getting these panic attacks, which then I started isolating from society altogether. And that, well, actually in 99, it was so bad, the panic attacks, that I came into the psychiatric clinic, and literally there were people, it's like a little village. Everything is in there, like schizophrenic, you name it, and it's there. When we would talk about suicide, it was normal, right? It was like, oh, you didn't attempt again today, right? Okay, well, at least it didn't work. You got another chance, right? Stuff like that. That's how I talked, and I understood them because I knew they suffered. But that's where I learned that everybody in there was actually normal. It was the outside world that wasn't normal. And that sounds really weird, but I knew they were all genuine inside. If somebody had these voices in their head, I mean, that they couldn't understand or cope with it or do whatever, if it was evil, then you know, obviously that's not a good thing. But there were many that didn't have all these evil voices. They just did have voices. And for me, it was like, well, you know, that's an aspect of you. And some did really strange things, because actually there was a cemetery on that plot, because this was a psychiatric clinic from the 1800s. They even had, they had a museum in there of how, with pictures and what it looked like. And I was like, oh, that was terrifying, right? Because they did the most horrific things. And actually the sister of Theo van Gogh, was it? Yeah. No, Van Gogh, you know, the painter.
Oh, Van Gogh. Van Gogh.
Yeah, his sister was there in the cemetery as well. And so clearly that whole family wasn't really, you know, and it was interesting. So then one day, this guy, I crossed him, because it's like a little village. Everybody has, there are little, how you call that? There's little, little houses, groups, where there's the addicts, there is the schizophrenics. That's where that, you know, everything was, you know, like you would have in a hospital, but this is in village, right? And so oddly enough, it was next to the train rail, but you know, I actually got one off the train rail as well, who was about to do suicide. But anyway, then one day I encountered this guy, and he's walking around with his box, and I'm like, what are you doing with that box? Well, there's a head inside, and apparently he got from the cemetery, because it was really neglected, right? Apparently he found a skeleton head. He put it in the box, and I said, so then why do you have that? Well, that's the voice that I have, and it's in my head, so now I'm walking around with it, so I've got the head with me too. And I'm like, ooh, that's a bit, you know, morbid. But on the same time, I thought, well, isn't that interesting, right? I kind of find everything in there normal, and not in the sense that, you know, that he walks around with a skeleton that he dug up there at the cemetery. That's not really normal, but the way they thought for me was normal. This was in 99. And so when I came out of there, I just couldn't cope with the world anymore. And so I decided to not go out anymore. And also I got panic attacks when I would go out. So I would go groceries and back, right? There were even times that I couldn't even do groceries. So that went on for, well, actually still till today, because then COVID hit and we couldn't go anywhere anyway. But then I started my channel, and I thought, you know what, I need to face the world again, because you cannot hide forever. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, this is when the Great Awakening happens, right? So people start waking up, and all of a sudden I start to see people that are not anymore, you know, what you call that social, they don't have that social structure, or they fed up with the social structures, with the social politics, right? Like you do this because otherwise other people think that,
Yes.
right?
Social
And I
pressure.
couldn't care. Yeah, but those people are strangers. So why would you care what these people think in the first place? But apparently everybody does that in society. So I came in the world the 1st of January 2020 when I started my channel as a challenge, not knowing that my channel actually will grow. But obviously behind the scene, I already made a lot of connections with people worldwide, but especially in America because of the whole politic, favorite Anon movement. And so I was in there 24/7 doing research. That was my thing. And so I got to know people, and I thought, oh, maybe the world isn't that great, that crazy anymore as when I started isolating. And so that's when I put myself to the challenge to start the channel. And slowly I started finding my tribe and learning more. And that's when I knew, oh my God, it's my time, the time that, that I need to be, that I can be back in the world without feeling suffocating with all this fakeness and masks and, everything people want from you instead of asking you what you want. Right? Because nobody's interested in what you want. Everybody's interested in what they want. And so it was really interesting to come back. And now what I always say, I'm not socially polluted, right? I'm not from the the fake politenesses and all that. And many times, obviously, it goes over my head when people say things that obviously doesn't mean what they really want to say, but it's like beating around the bush. And that happens literally all day long with people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so exhausting. It's exhausting. Just be who you want to be. And so then I started seeing that, and now I see it a lot. Authenticity is coming back, finally. So yeah, so that's kind of and I don't know, I guess I sidestepped from your question because I forgot what your question was, but this is a bit where for me everything went. So I'm quite unique in the sense that people, many, they see me, oh, cute and all that, but I'm completely strange to the world of people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you are what the vast majority of the higher dimensionals are, because they are living in the authentic way, because they do have telepathy. They are living within that open, intuitive heart space area, where here we're living closed off within the ego. And so I understand, like being in that center with all those people, they're just being genuinely themselves and honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't want, right? Unapologetic want.
Yeah. And oh my God, everybody always says sorry for everything. And I'm like, why? Why? And it's all about politeness. And I just don't understand it. But at the same time, I mean, I'm trying to understand it. So because, after all, you still need to, because you need to be empathic. And it's not like I'm not empathic. It's just that, God, just find yourself, be authentic. Then I can be empathic about you, because then I know who you are. Yeah. But until you don't show who you are, for me, it's like seeing a robot, somebody that's not themselves, that lives the life that the rest of the world wants, because God knows what they all think, right? And a lot of people live by the rule of what will other people say or think when I do this or that. That to me is so alien. Now that is alien, right?
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm in LA, so I'm in the land of ego and insecurity. And so I was really lonely for a little while, because I feel as the veil is thinning and the consciousness is rising, you're just reflecting people. So they were very uncomfortable around me. A lot of them still are, because I just be blunt. Like, whatever you say, it's how I react is my problem, but just, let's get to the meat of stuff. And people are so paranoid, especially during this past 2-year blip, with mandates and things. They're more worried about what other people are going to think of them than them being honest and truthful. But this movement, I don't even think it's a movement. It's more awakening we have, the more unapologetically blunt we can be, because you'll find the right people and, get people to break free from those masks. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I have to say that in those years that I didn't spend around people, I also had addictions, right? I used tranquilizer. I was numbing myself like crazy because I was very well by myself, very well. Actually, I didn't miss people at all, not even in the slightest. But I still was struggling because I had a lot of traumas. First of all, what happened in the first 7 years of my life? What did happen, right? I wasn't telepathic. I didn't have any connections with beings and all that stuff that most of you guys have, but I don't. And so for me, it was a huge struggle. I got in debt. I got addicted to tranquilizers. I even used coke. Name it, and I did it. And then all of a sudden in 2010, I also lived in a house full of entities. And so it was bad. It was like going to bed and all the lights would go on, stuff like that, right? And then in 2010, I met somebody that did Reiki, and she did a clearing on my house. And literally, at the moment she did it, it was like my house got an extra window, more light all of a sudden. It was really weird. And from that moment on, I discovered that I could paint. Well, I learned it through YouTube, but I did realistic painting. And so I started painting for 8 months, and I was so happy with it. And I'm like, I'm quite happy, really. So now I need to get off those tranquilizers and all that. Let's go to rehab, right? Not thinking there's obviously people in rehab. Didn't think of that at all until the moment I arrived. I was like, oh, right. I just wanted to get rid of this, but I forgot there's people. Right. And so I struggled for 6 months in rehab in Scotland for navigating people and social structures and stuff like that, because imagine everybody on detox being aggressive. They need a scapegoat, and that would be me. And so there I was that was the biggest trauma ever in there. I didn't get rid of my tranquilizers over there. I had to learn how to live with people. And remember that before I came in rehab that day, I didn't see a human being for 8 months straight, right? Not one. And so the shock was amazing. And so that was a whole different therapy than I ever thought. And I learned a lot there. I was kind of thrown back into my school years where I was bullied. And so there too, but by plain adults, right, on detox. So I've been beaten there, by groups of people. Just as bullies, they become children. I cannot even imagine this stuff that happened to me in there. But after 6 months, I came out and I was like, oh, I can navigate people now, right? And so then a year later, I had another energy healing, and that's when I quit from one day to the other with the tranquilizers. And so that's how I eventually got rid of it. And then I started a holistic path, completely went holistic. And from there, I started rising. And up till 2020, and then I got that channel, and then it went on from there. So it's been a really tough journey, but on the other hand, it's not like, people can still hurt me, because now I'm in the world of people and I needed to accept people. And I had my cats for 15 years. They went through with me through that all the way from 2005 till 2021, where actually 2006, I had them for 15 years. And then last year, one died on the 25th of May, and the next one died on the 1st of June within a week. And that for me was hell, because not only did I lose my soulmates, children, call it what they are, because I don't have children, I'm not married, I'm still alone, right? But what I forgot about that part is that all of a sudden I was alone. I didn't have an anchor. I didn't have anything. They were everything, where what I had as a connection with living beings, right? So and so now I think they died, because transitioned, I want to say, because it was time for me to really dedicate myself and get into the world and accept that I'm living amongst people and that I need to live with people and learn to really accept them and being part of them. And that was what happened when they passed. And that was my first thought, because an hour before the last one died, I was lying on the couch and we had to go to the vet. I wasn't sure yet but I felt it, right? And I lay down with her and she put a paw on my face. And I said, do you really need to go too? And then I heard in my head, yes, Mom, because now you have to do it alone. You have to learn. You need to move forward and you need to do that by yourself. And I started crying, but I knew that day that I would come home with her dead, and that happened. And so in a week time, I lost my anchor to, to getting myself isolated, because I still tended to isolate a lot, right? Because it was comfortable for me. It was what I knew. And because I had them. And so, who needs anything else? And now I was forced to be in the world without them. And only then did I realize how difficult that was, and how I was lost. And not only because I missed them, but just because all of a sudden I felt literally lost in the world. And at the same time, a week later, I made a group in Telegram where we all, every Starseeds and all that. And it was like finding my tribe. And actually, I forgot to add you there, Abby, and, because it's a really great group with all Starseeds, and everybody has these gifts and see things and all that. I don't, but I just know. And it's okay. I don't need to see or be telepathic. I just already know it's all there. And for the first time I found my tribe, of which a few people were like me. They isolated from the world, and so they could understand me. So I had most of my breakdowns in this grief with them, and I felt understood. And oh my God, they really, really supported me there. And at the same time, they kind of guided me into the world as it is. And yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. A lot of these kids coming in, some of them, it's the first time they've been here into this dense of a place. And it's very hard for them to understand how we treat one another. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it's,
yeah.
For the, I guess, what piece of advice would you give? Because you're now an adult looking back, what would you give to parents for advice for their children who are experiencing what you did? What would be the best way that they could support and love that child?
To talk with them, to go through the intellectual stuff, because that's it, the thing, right? You're a child. Nobody thinks I remember thinking as an adult when I was a child. And but I didn't know that at the time properly. I knew it later. But for example, I don't have children, but I love children because they're genuine, they're authentic. You need to keep that authenticity. Don't poison them with those social cues and stuff. Don't. Let them be who they are. Let them be authentic. Let them express what they think, no matter how absurd it might sound for the parent itself. Because that way you stimulate there. Because I had to fight that insecurity, the constantly thinking I'm the one that's not belonging here. And so, you feel insecure. And so that's when I started isolating altogether, because first of all, I don't want to conform to society because I can't stand it. I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it because it's all fake. But at the same time, it got me also insecure because you literally feel like you're looking from the outside in, but the in is not what it's supposed to be. The in is all fakery. So I decided to stay outside of that line. I always described it as a football field where everybody's playing inside and I stood on the outside.
Yeah.
Go feel like my sports. But at the same time, I felt insecure not being part of that because I didn't understand why am I not like them, right? Why am I not? Why can people not understand that maybe I can think different? Why can they not accept that, right? All those things. So that's what a child thinks. That's what a child is most preoccupied with, which then forms them, to life, which was panic attack, 20% anxiety. I was literally afraid of people. And I can tell you, I'm now 52. At 50, for the first time, I accepted being in this world. I decided to go inside the football field, but only because the game changed. Right? I saw certain players being like me, and rebellion. We would call it rebellion, which is ridiculous because, it shouldn't be rebellion. That should be the way it is being authentic, be yourself. You do not need to be, ridiculed when you think different.
That's
and
true.
so, yeah. And so I think I would recommend parents absolutely to take your child serious, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. Just go with it, right? And that's what I actually, on birthday parties with the family, God, my mom and my brothers, they would be so annoyed because I would always sit with the children, always. I had more fun, and I was in my world, in my zone. But then now that I learned that I was autist, I also know obviously why that was. But they are authentic. They are creative, they think different. And I could, far in adulthood, I understood that. So on every birthday party, family party, I would be with the children, every time. And my mom would say, can you just sit here? Because, they want to know about you and this and that. What do they want to know? There's nothing they want to know because they would judge it anyway. And with the children, I'm just having fun, right?
And they're probably drawn to you because you were being authentic to them. They could see past that. Wow.
Yeah, I never talk like cuckoo caca like to children like they're their age. I talk literally like an adult with children because they understand. They know. I remember when I was a child that I knew, and I was like, well, you think I'm stupid? But I thought it, obviously. I didn't say it, but that's what I thought always, right? And I definitely see a lot of adults that were not genuine at all, especially. And when you see that as a child, you start to mistrust people.
You lose your trust then.
I've never understood parents that, number one, talk down to children. I've never understood that. I never did that. And then number two, the parents who think that they get away with, I don't want to say lying to their kids, but not telling them the whole truth. Kids can read everything, and they can, just like you can read when they're not being genuine. Like they know that they're being gaslighted by their parent right now. They're not stupid. And it's just never, I don't understand parents that aren't, because children can actually, number one, they can handle a lot more than what we give credit for.
Oh God, yes.
And number two, when we are real and honest, then they have a much better place, a foundation to move forward from, versus, so you're telling me something, I know you're lying, I know this is right, so now I have to try to mold to this illusion that you're trying to give to me, which I know in my heart isn't real.
Yeah. Well, and also remember that your parents, you also mistrust your parents because you know they're lying. You see it. And so you're like, oh, wait a minute. So if they're lying to me now, whatever, how can I trust them? How do I know whether they actually take me serious? How do I know that they, well, and for me, that wasn't the case anyway, because I never felt hurt, never. Right. And so I retreated already. And cats were a big part of my life. And I talked to my cats. Right. When I had a cat as a young age as well, I would come out of school after being bullied. And sometimes I didn't even dare to go to school because I was so badly bullied. So I just go to my room and sit there with my cat and tell my cat everything. And she would just sit there listening. Right. I knew she was listening. And so to me, that's why cats have such a big role in my life. That could have been a dog. It really doesn't matter what kind of animals, because I always knew animals are genuine. They are in the now. We have when I learned about the 5D, so the beings from 5D, they learn from us because they look at us, how they can improve their life to get to 60 or 70, whatever, right? But we have the same with animals who they call are more 2D, but what they are really, they always live in the now. And we need to go back to that. It's a symbiosis, right? Because we learn, because we forgot who we were by not looking back, but always looking forward. We want to go to 5D. We want to go to 5D. Well, in order to get to 5D, you need to look where you came from. And if you look at animals who people say they are lower than us, which is ridiculous, because if I look at it now, I guess the state of the world, how it was, is that animals are more worthy and intelligent than people, I would say, because they live in the now. If a dog is abused and they get rescued and they get a better home again, and you look at them, it's like they've never been abused at all. Why? They just forget about it because they move on, because they always live moment. And I think that's what we need to learn from animals. This is why we have to look at animals in order to improve ourselves to get to 5D, because it has a lot to do with letting go of your ego, right? And so when your parents are constantly indeed treating you like a child, because that's literally what they do. Apparently that's a thing, right? We treat you like a child because you are a child. How about you treat me like a human being? Right. And so when I saw these things and I needed to understand things, then they would leave things out to protect you. It's like saying, we're not going to get a divorce because we want to protect the children. Are you crazy? Do you think that your children don't know that you have a crisis in your relationship, that you're always fighting, that you do not get along? The first thing children see is not what you say, it's how you interact with each other. I think children are much more closer to that energy field between people than whatever is being said or how, their actions go. What they see is this toxic relationship. And so if you have a relationship that you're not okay in and you think you should stay together for the children, you couldn't make a worse choice than that, because God, if anything, his children are the first to see it.
Completely. And feel it.
Yeah.
See it and feel it and react. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you cannot fool children. That's the point, right? Because they're authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the reason they say nothing is because that's what they've been grown up with. I'm your mother, so I'm your father, so. And so the child thinks, it's my mother. So if I'm going to say that, she's going to give me that lesson, right? She's going to say, I'm your mother. And so therefore, right? And so you don't say anything. It doesn't mean you don't see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's where you get this vicious circle of destruction of a child
Yeah.
going into the world of this social poison, right?
It's true.
Sometimes I will say with my kids, though, you know, especially my oldest, we have memories of other lives together. And
Wow.
I've always known that her soul's older than mine. And I asked her once, I said, is it weird that you know and I know that you're older than me, but I'm playing your mom?
Oh my gosh.
And
This is beautiful. And this is why I wish I would have children, but you know, I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, she goes, sometimes, but I also know that I chose you to be your mom. I mean, I chose you to be my mom. And so I look at you as that. And, you know, and I will sometimes, if they aren't doing something, I will say, hey, you chose me to be your mom right now. So you need to go and clean your room.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Because, you know, obviously there are these things, cleaning your room and stuff like that, because as a child, you couldn't care less. But because that's about responsibility and the whole structure of the world and how, you know, but at the end of the day, when it comes to conversations like that, that's what a child probably misses, is real conversations about anything, right? It's so much has been, you know, even a child is being censored every day of their lives by their own parents.
Right. Now we all as adults have doses of that. Yeah. Now we get the censorship. Ooh.
Yeah. Right.
True.
It's
you know,
shut up and sit down. Not shut up, but or sometimes like sit down and be quiet. You know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And they know no better. It's usually learned behavior. So we're breaking so many cycles. So many traumatic cycles. It's a whole new wave of kids that are going to come on up without having those abusive parents that knew no better.
Yeah.
I was saying the true warriors of this spiritual World War III that we are in, or whether you want to look at it as the continuation of World War II, because, you know, there's arguments for both sides. But the true warriors of all of this are the kids right now.
Okay, then let me say the question again. So will you say that children are being, you know, are they born with parents that are actually awake? I'm just realizing I didn't ask that question. It was in my head. Sorry.
That's great. I think so. Yeah, I think so. You mean, are our kids being born awake like that?
Or like
no, well, no, I know that, but are they born with, because if you're born with a parent that is totally not awake, then automatically it will lose already. It already has a disadvantage because by being shut up, right? Like, I'm your mother, shut up, you know, because, you know, they're children. And so they're being treated in the way that, well, in the old tradition. It's funny to say that, right? Old tradition, even if it's still new. But anyway, old tradition. So the new mothers like you, you know, you obviously treat it completely different, which accommodates them to be in their full potential. So I would say, do you think there is children being born in families that are still so asleep?
Yeah, do I think that some of these incredibly gifted Starseed children are still choosing to be born into unawakened parents? Yes. But
really?
I would say the ones who are choosing to do so, though, their souls are wanting that extra challenge. There's something in there, whether they're coming here to wake up their parents and heal something in that bloodline, in that ancestry line. You know, I think there's a lot of kids coming in that are coming to heal those bloodlines, to heal those ancestral traumas.
Right.
I think so.
Yeah, and maybe they are actually there to trigger because maybe they're not even there for them. Maybe they are there for one of the parents that need to wake up and discover where they are from and remember.
Patricia, I have to say that has to go with me. I'm one I've shared before, but I was dormant for a long time. Very, spiritual child, but dormant. Talk about numbing and addictions and the whole 9 yards. It was my
Yeah.
kids that came through that I had now this responsibility. The
Oh,
dad was out of the picture.
oh wow.
I threw him and then he was out. So I thank him for that and I let him go. But they made me go, whoa, clean up, wake up, figure this out. And they were my biggest teachers in my awakening.
Oh wow. That
Yes.
gave me goosebumps. Yeah, I cannot even, because many, I do see some of these people that, that it's the children today. This is why they make all these children woke, right? And poison them with all these things going on today, is I think exactly for this reason, because they came in, to actually wake their parents, only to do the complete opposite, right?
They're all wearing the slogan shirts and following the narrative, and now they're on the playground and their groups. Are you vaccinated? Or are you unvaccinated? It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
The controllers, I don't want to say the powers that be, but those, we know who we're talking about. Absolutely.
The powers that were.
Thank you. There you go. The powers that were. They absolutely knew this huge wave that this planet is getting slammed with. So that's the reasoning behind why they started creating all of these social media platforms, and why the agenda within those platforms was all the conformity of, hey, let's get all the kids to do this one single dance, and each celebrity is going to come up with it. The mimicking that we are seeing, that's all these kids know how to do, is just mimic. And there's no originality, and if you even look at the movies and television shows, the only thing we're getting are rewrites.
Yeah. You know what I can't stand is people getting views over animals. There's this guy, and he's got like a pet every week, and he pretends to be like the second Steve Irwin. He knows nothing, but all he does is literally use animals for views, with the flashy music, with this and that, and they're talking really fast, like they know exactly what they're going to say, because oh, I've got this mouse here and let's see what this mouse can do. And I'm like, and there's people watching this and copying it, like the cucumber joke with the cats. Why will you shock a freaking cat every single time? And so it becomes a trend, right? These toxic things, and everybody think it's funny. I don't think it's funny at all. It's retard, but here's the other thing. The every coin has two sides. So with the internet came also those that didn't fall for that. And they were the ones that actually went the other way around, to wake up people. So you can use the internet, to toxic them into oblivion, but you can also wake them up. And this is why I guess worldwide these two groups are there, like the woke and the awakened. It's called woke for a reason, right? It never was. It was in the past, but they never really were awakened. And so you get these two sides, because dark and light is necessary to grow. And so if you don't have dark, light cannot exist, because there's nothing, to evolve from. If everything is always perfect, we are stagnant, right? Because what are you going to learn? Everything is perfect, right? But we need to learn. And so this is where these dark sides come from. And so it's the yin and yang, right? We know that in every light, there's a bit of dark, and in every dark, there's a little bit of light, and both need to, be there in order to keep that balance. And there needs to be a balance between dark and light, because dark shouldn't be eradicated all completely, because without that we don't grow. And so if you do see all these things, then you also see there comes a lot of good out of that, what influences people, like the internet, right? So like you said, all these children going on there and that, but then I see children that are starseeds. There's this kid that does these crystal grids, and his mom made a channel, and the stuff he says goes above my head, right? But I'm so fascinated with these kids teaching things that, have nothing to do with politics and these trends and everything there. And there's that one unique kid having this channel doing stuff that, not for views, no, for what he knows. And there are more and more doing that. And I love that because, at a certain, what I do see now is the balance tipping. People look straight through ego now. People look straight through the narcissism from people now. And I love seeing that. And this is where we now start to, I think the worst we had in 2021. And this year is going to be like the year of truth. Stuff comes to the surface. And then the balance is coming because, dark and light. And I don't know if you guys see this too, but I do. And I love it.
I do it and I feel it. Yeah.
I feel it. I feel that nothing can be hidden anymore.
Yeah.
Everything that they try to do gets taken down immediately.
Yeah.
The veil's gone.
That's the what I see with the woke. I mean, it's funny because now I see those people that are woke. They cannot just say whatever they want anymore. Now they get the backlash. Last year, they could say, and they were on top of the world when they said it. But now I even see people that are woke that start to censor themselves because they're afraid of the backlash. And there you see that it's balancing out because, I think it was the pendulum swing, right? It was like chaos. And now we're slowing down that pendulum. And I think that's where eventually we get that balance back. And I definitely think 2024, I think we're back into the balance. And that I think this is what it means to say nothing can stop what is coming, because it can't. By logic, by physics, if you look at it, it's just not.
Oh, yeah.
It's not sustainable, is it?
And you brought up my favorite alphabet letter because there's been so many little proofs and validations lately. I'm just like, hold the line, yes.
Yeah, and who would have thought?
Yeah,
because I was there with that first drop.
Yeah.
And oh my God, and I was already awake, but I learned so much. I learned thinking beyond, right? And now all these little phrases that are constantly hammered onto us there, they now become to make sense. And actually, they constantly make new sense. Right?
Yes. And that particular movement united me with friends across the planet, because it wasn't just United States. This was a global phenomenon. And those who were doing the research were considered outcasts, but we found each other. Yeah. And lo and behold, we weren't the crazy one. And we also happened to wind up being the healthiest ones too.
Yeah, I was the first year. I was the one in the chance. I was the one being there behind, anonymous, 24/7, 4 hours sleep with a lot of other people. We had shifts in there. And I even got 17th, if we have to say that, but before it got all on Twitter. And but I didn't care about the whole being seen and, him picking my post and all that. I didn't care. Why? Because first in my lifetime, I saw, oh my God, this is it. We're finally there in that world. And that's when, after that year, 2017, so 18, 19. And then by then I had made such a big network already within that research. I thought, it's safe to come out. And that's what I did, right? Yeah.
You had the support. I think all still for a reason. It was put out at a certain time and everything. So
and also when he said it's a spiritual war. And, because first I did my videos about that, but soon enough, I was like, no, this is so much deeper than that. And so I went on that spiritual path and, and from there I went into the Starseeds, and I learned I was a Starseed myself. Well, not one. I'm like millions and millions of years old. And, I've done so many lives on other planets and stuff. And, apparently the last one was Andromeda. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. I really don't care where I come from, but I know now. This is also where finally I felt I have a home. And that's what I missed. I always missed that place where I belonged. And now I know where that is. Well, not exactly. It's not like I got to see them in a session that I had with somebody that has, contacts, sheets. But for the first time, I felt what it was to belong to a family. And they're actually not just Andromeda, they're also Arcturian and Lyran. So it's a family. It's like I'm from a multiculti family. but and I love that, but I never felt like that here with my human family, so to speak. And it's like, oh, finally, it's that I have an anchor. I have an anchor point now from where to work. And before I was lost. I couldn't ground because I didn't know what to ground in, even if I'm living here now. But and that's what I found. And I think that's how I got into the interviews with the people that are having experiences. Or actually lately, this is interesting, I got an email, somebody recognized me from Mars from the 20 and back, and he said, but you did 40 and back. And I have no memory whatsoever, nothing. And I do have memories from other lives millions of years ago, but I do not know anything about this. But he was so detailed, and he sent me a picture and I recognized him. And I didn't know from where. And so he tells me what I was. Apparently, I had quite some achievements, whatever. And there's this famous man involved that was one of my best friends. What's his name? Robert Henry. He was military, and then later went on writing books about sci-fi. And so, but I don't know, I don't remember anything. I don't know if it's even relevant, and maybe it wasn't even me, but I don't see they're crazy, because I know they are right within me. Every cell of me knows that all these people had these experiences.
Mm-hmm. That happened to me once, and I'm still trying to unpack it. I was on social media and I saw someone's picture. And the minute I saw their face, and they live in a completely different country than I do.
Yeah.
I had a flash of a memory come back. And it was me in like my 20s. And we were in military gear in some type of like cave. It was very, very dark. And he was across from me. And I had a very strong feeling that he's like a little, like I view him as a younger brother. And we were like, are you ready? Like, let's go. And then we went, and we were like doing a mission. And then I had another quick memory of me being very young, and he was there too, but he was younger than me. And it was just all these kids, and there's no parents, just all these kids. And I heard super psychic kids. And
wow.
So that's all I know. That's all that has come back. And it took me a year and a half to finally reach out to this person and said, do you have any type of like weird memories or flashback, like of anything? And I just shared, and I told him, I said, I swear I'm not crazy, but this is just the minute I saw you, I had a very strong flashback memory. So I haven't explored that at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so for me too, I got this email, I know you're from Mars. And I'm like, okay. And so, but then he gives me all these details. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. But then the writer, this man that's supposed to be my friend on Mars, all his covers are redheads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was his name again? When you said it earlier, it cut
Robert, out. You said Robert.
Handline.
Robert Henline.
Handline. It's like what was it?
Hanlon?
Handline. So HEILEIN.
Highland.
And there's interviews of him also talking about all that stuff. right? Because pal feeling,
Yeah.
really weird,
Huh.
really weird.
Wow.
And so, but I don't know anything. I don't know I clearly in an extension, they can really wipe your memory in a big extension, because my first 7 years, I don't understand why I didn't remember the first 7 years of my life. And then I had, and the moment he said we met before, all the memories came back. And that's when I knew what happened. I couldn't cope here. So I went out of my body. I left a certain percentage of my soul in here, and I went. But because I couldn't go to the, what was it, 9D or 7D, what I came from, I couldn't go there as my soul was too dense, even here already. I went to them and the Pleiadians, because that's from there I came here. It's almost like a trip, right? Like you do logistically. But, and so, and we cried, right? Because instantly I remembered. And he said, I so badly wanted to keep you there because I knew how you were suffering, but I couldn't, I wasn't allowed. But I didn't even know why, because you have a different mission, which is from a whole different density. And I don't even know about that because, just like nobody knows about the higher densities, because, if they would, then what's the point of evolving? So he told me that I came to visit them, and I begged them to stay there. Please keep me here because I don't want to go back. And that's when I remembered exactly that in those 7 years, most of the times I wasn't in my body. And now I know, because when I have only few pictures of me as a child, and I can see it in my eyes, I wasn't there. And so what happened then is that I was only for 3% here. So my soul was for 3% in my body most of the time. Every time I came back, I was being attacked by these reptilians, right? They came because they want to get you, right? Because the light was too bright. And so what happens is that they, I went out, but at the same time, what happens then in your body is that entities start inhabiting it because you left the space. And so this is where all the trauma came from, which then I had to spend 40 years getting rid of that trauma, addiction, anxiety, name it. And all of a sudden, when I understood, because a part of it, I already knew about reptilians visiting me at night, and I used to get out of my body instantly, right? So, and in that moment, they cannot do anything with you because you're worthless if your light is out, right? And so that's the only thing I already knew. And I all learned this in 2021. And so, and then I got this contact. I had this conversation for 2.5 years with 2.5 hours with this Pleiadian. And the moment he said it, everything came back. Oh, in instant, the memory came back. It was mind blowing, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And
I have to explore that. I got to find an old email because there is somebody that had contacted me and said, I knew you in like a jump room / experimental stuff. And he sent me a picture and he said, Montauk, New York. And all I could think of is Montauk because my mom had a boyfriend out there. And when there was a separation of my parents, we went to visit. I wrote her and I told her, and she's like, I'm out of breath. Like, what? I don't know what's happening. I sent her the picture. She dropped. She sat down and she goes, I think it was for her. The message was for her. So it was, we got to follow up on those,
But do you mean the message was for her, or was it you that experienced it?
I didn't have anything flood back to me, but I was, he and I are still friends, so I might just have to have that conversation with him. But my mom's physical reaction to it, there was a connection for her for sure, which then probably I'm sure for me because I'm her kid.
Yeah, they love the bloodlines.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if you did a 40 and back, wouldn't you feel that in your body as well? I don't feel it. So, but if it's a 40 and back, wouldn't I still be there? I would.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
And that might explain why I don't remember.
Yeah. So much.
And I didn't. I was there apparently when I was 21. Interestingly, at 25, that's when all the panic attacks started. So if you have these trauma stuff happening in that parallel life, because, then that might explain also all the destructive behaviors that I had between my 25th and 40, where drugs and all that stuff, right? So I wonder if that is linked to it then. And if it's a 40 and back, and I went there in 20, when I was like about 20, say 20, maybe 18, I don't know what age, then I'm still there.
Yeah.
So that might explain why I don't why I don't remember anything, because I did the interviews with, Daryl, James, and Tony Rodriguez, and clearly, when obviously they did, remember certain things, but only most of them remember most of the things when they come back. So, when they don't have that parallel life anymore. So maybe, I don't know if that's gonna change anything.
Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Could still be in service.
Yeah.
Well, I hope not, because if I then get all these memories back, then I don't hope they're that ugly, because, but then again, I did have 15 years of very intense healing I had to do. So, and that was really tough, but now, that would explain.
Yeah, you could be ready to handle the memories. We had a
Yeah.
talk with Tony. We loved talking with Tony
Yeah.
Rodriguez. He's so fabulous. And I had a little aha moment while talking with him. I'm trying to work out my timeline.
Yeah.
And that makes sense about still being active duty, hence it all can't come back. And then Abby and I have childhood connections. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I want to get those back. You have to work on me, Abby. We'll do maybe Patricia could do us both.
Yeah. I have.
Yeah,
I've done.
You can actually do a tandem BQH.
Yeah, I did a tandem. The practitioner at that time had never done one, and she didn't know if it would work. And because I'm, I always go galactic, and this woman in our meditation group, she knew she had ties, but she hadn't gone galactic. She wanted more answers. And so the practitioner asked me, she said, Abby, would you go in and help her reach there? And I'm like, sure. Let's do it. And it worked. I mean, when you connect astrally, I literally remember, I looked over, from astral body, I go, you ready? And I just grabbed her hand and boom, and we just shot up. And
oh, wow.
She went and kind of did her thing, and then I was able to go off and do my own little mini session. But it was interesting because while I was there, I did a reading for her while I was up there. So I was seeing some of her galactic lineages. So yeah.
Wow.
It's the whole, we talked about BQH in the beginning, which is, beyond quantum healing, hypnosis, but it's all quantum. It's, as Dolores Cannon wrote, it's the convoluted universe. There's a never ending possibilities. So, when I've never done that tandem, and I said, yeah, because why not? I mean, there's no parameters per se. So just try things. And it's about that heart-centered intention. And
absolutely. Actually, I had a BQH with somebody. I did on her. And so, and I developed a new skill. So, same when you were talking before, I instantly saw exactly what you experienced. So I see with my eyes through your eyes at that moment. So when I give a session and somebody tells, instantly I see everything they see. I see it even before they tell me what it is. And it's so strange, and it's getting only stronger and stronger. So she's there in this place, and instantly I know that's Mu, like Lemuria, Mu, Atlantis. And so, and I see how she's dressed, and I said, okay, can you describe how you're dressed? And boom, spot on. Now, can you look around you, what you see? Spot on, all of it. And then she tells me about the crystals that are healing her, and that are making contact with her. They heal her there. And instantly I knew also in what time period she was there, at the end of the fall of Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. And so, which is the time that we are in now. So we are where we are now in a time where their time ended, right? So that's where we are. This is why you see the chaos. And she starts describing anything. She said, there's chaos going on. And instantly I knew. And she said, so then I went to the day where she dies, but she didn't die. She transitioned. And immediately I knew what was going on, but I didn't say anything, obviously, during the session. So I'm just neutral, right? You cannot suggest anything. And so I'm trying to get her to say where she is the moment that she dies. And she says, no, I'm transitioning. And I found that so interesting. And so next day she does the session on me, because this was a practice session. Mm-hmm. And I wind up at the same place as a man. And I wind up there while she is going through the transition. And I know there is chaos. And I knew exactly what was happening. I knew that we were going to have the event, as everybody talks about. And what happens is that all of a sudden there's this flash. And I find myself, we find ourselves in the inner earth, which is not really the inner earth, because it's a dimension. It's within a temporal space, as you can call it, but it's still the inner earth, because it's a cave and it's so massive. And I saw it there from the moment that we arrived. And now today, obviously, that's a whole existence in itself, right? A whole land and place in itself. And that's where I witnessed for the first time what it looked like when they arrived there. And the reason they went there in the first place is because they were a very high vibration. So just like today, we have this division, right? There's people that are really low vibration. They don't want to wake up and blah. And there's these people that are busy rising their vibration. And that's what exactly happened there. So those people, they stayed in that high vibration, and the rest actually went down in vibration, because they already were all in high vibration. But then ego came in, and so they went to a lower vibration. And when they went to that lower vibration, chaos, and wars and destruction came about. But those that stayed with nature, with the crystals, and do their traditional things, they needed to get out of there. They needed to move away from the surface, because it would be their death and destruction themselves. So that's when they decide to find this window where the event happens, and they went in there. And that's a bit where we are now. So we are picking up where they left off after their destruction, after their downfall. And it's interesting that was the age of Leo. We're now in the age of Aquarius, and those two are exact opposite. So they ended at the age of Leo, and we're now, or Leo is there, and we are in the age of Aquarius. So we're picking exactly up where they left off, and everything in between, that was our dark times that we've been through over the thousands and thousands of years that we've been through now. So, and it's interesting because it did look, and now I'm busy editing both sessions, so they match up together, because we both were at the same place and filled in what the other didn't know. And that was mind-blowing.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to.
And so I was thinking about that, because you said a tandem. I think if we would have done a tandem, that would have been amazing. But in the second life we saw for her was that she was the crystal itself. Little did I know she didn't know anything about crystals. And so she didn't even have crystals. And there she got to be the crystal. And she explained what it meant to be the crystal, what they do, how they collect the information and all that, and how they heal. And so when she got out of the session, I said, wow, you were a crystal. She said, I didn't know this about crystals. I didn't know anything about crystal. And I'm like, what? And so immediately in that week, she went to buy a crystal, and she found a Lemurian crystal.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Amazing, right?
Yes.
I have a, I have a,
Oh,
I,
that looks like ours. Abby.
actually, I'm cat sitting.
Oh,
And
nice.
and that's Cassie. She's a Brazilian from Brazilian owners, and she because I couldn't get any cats myself yet, so I'm now professionally cat sitting, whatever that means. But yeah, so she's staying till the 24th, and then she goes home again.
Aww.
Sweet.
I love that. We just got done 2 weeks ago cat sitting for our neighbor's 2 cats, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, I'm on a website, so every time when one goes, the next one comes. So I'm for people that go on holiday and all, and so they leave their cats here, and I get even paid for it.
Oh,
Great.
even
That's
better.
awesome.
That's a win-win
Yeah.
in my book.
Oh, well, the first week is difficult because obviously you know how cats are when they have to move a different place that they don't know. So she was pretty pissed off with me, and but after a few days we made friends, and now she sleeps with me and everything. Yeah, it's really cute.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that information. You know what? I mean, usually these conversations, we don't do a whole lot of prep and I know Patricia, you're the same way because we just love letting
Yeah,
them flow where spirit's going to take it because it's always going to go where it's supposed to.
exactly.
I mean, we covered so many different topics and I love these. I call these dimensional discussions. So I love them.
Yes. Oh
Perfect
gosh, I
title.
love that.
Perfect title.
Yeah, and indeed, I never thought about that, but indeed, I always wing it, right? And I don't like to do your classic when I have a Tony Rodriguez, I don't like to ask the questions everybody does, right?
Yeah.
So, and always something interesting comes out of it. It's really nice.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you so much. How can everyone in our audience follow you, find you? What are all your deets?
So I'm on YouTube with the Keystone channel, also on D Live and Twitch, by the way, but just in case, right? And I'm on. I have a website which is awakeningtohealing.com, where somebody can book a BQH session, and that's really it. And I go live usually on a Monday on the 7 p.m. Eastern, but I haven't been live for a few weeks. But that's also because I'm going for quality over quantity. So, I'd rather go live when there's something interesting, and otherwise I just, do my thing. And so that's where people can find me. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.